Next up, we have our final reading for today. And this is coming from The Divine Forces of the Lunar Nakshatras, as portrayed in the Vedas, by Radhe. Here we are going to convey the Uttara Ashadha native. So this is an author who is steeped in the sidereal Vedic astrology tradition. So there are times when we're reading her work where we have to remember that her generalizations of a nakshatra can be a little bit licentious and relate, unfortunately, to certain things. Like, for example, she mentions that Uttara Ashadha's 2 stars, which I think is Omega and Theta Sagittarii, are located in the arrow of the Sagittarius Archer, an arrow aimed at heights far beyond the heavenly stars. So no goal is too grandiose for Uttara Ashadha. But unfortunately, that arrow does not exist. The constellations do not exist as the constellations of the 12 sign zodiac were incorrectly configured to the stars 2,000 years ago. And so we tropical Vedic astrologers do not appoint any importance to the arrow of the classical constellation of Sagittarii, because the true Sagittarius is a tropical phenomenon, not a sidereal phenomenon. That's why in 5,000 years, Uttara Ashadha is going to be nowhere near the tropical zodiac sign of Sagittarius. So keep that in mind. This author will sometimes say things like that, and I'm going to catch them and negate them when I can. But it's just something worth mentioning here. Overall, though, she ultimately takes her vision of a native from classical lore, as well as her clinical experience of and research, especially when the moon is in this sign, and as well from the Vedic lore of the associated deity. In this case, that's Vishvasham Devanam, the Vishvadevas, which is itself its own entity in Vedic literature. So this is the native of Uttara Ashadha for anybody who has the moon here specifically. If the moon in your chart is in Uttara Ashadha, you should relate a lot to this. As well, the ascendant point, the Lagna, is going to have the energy that we read here for the native. You can have a stellium there, a stellium of a whole bunch of planets, and you'll find this energy relates to you. And if your Atmakaraka falls into this nakshatra, then you will find this energy relates. But mostly, the highest one is the moon. The moon in Uttara Ashadha is the Uttara Ashadha native. Second being the rising sign. Those are the 2 most significant placements that carve the soul character and narrative of this asterism. So let's dig into it. This is the Uttara Ashadha native. Uttara Ashadha is a victory-inspired nakshatra. According to Bhatta, who's a commentator on the Taittiriya Brahmana, the foundation of Uttara Ashadha above is the all-conquering force of triumph. Its foundation below is that which must be conquered. So this nakshatra, the native of this nakshatra, seeks to be in contact with the all-conquering force of triumph and truth, which I often say, I've been saying in my video where I went through the Nakshatra Sutra, of this sign, that the Uttara Ashadha native is like an evolutionary agent. They are the transistor, the transmitter of the intelligent truth of the divine forces that live inside of the Devanam, the deific vibratory intelligence of the cosmos. So I always say Sanskrit, when it comes to the Vedas, the vibratory, each consonant and vowel in Sanskrit has a vibratory slot, and it's like it's a chemistry. Each word and consonant moves together with other words in a similar way. It's like the periodic table of elements. Oxygen is always going to behave the same way. Helium is always going to behave the same way. Hydrogen is always the same. It has to do with the proton and the electrons revolving around it. So the chemistry is the same on any planet. You can travel 10 billion light years away, find another planet. Oxygen and boron, they're all going to operate the same way. Sanskrit is the same way. It's periodic. It's always going to vibratorily work the same way. So it's almost like it's muktub. It's already written. It's a book that we're just blowing the dust off of. And the intelligence of the cosmos is a vibratory reality, which the ancient rishis, the seers, they saw the words that existed before we found them. And these words of the Vishvadevas have an intelligence, an agenda, a narrative that they are seeking certain people to be transistors for. And Uttara Ashadha natives are these evolutionary agents who carry the will of divine intelligence. But with this, they have to balance the human ego, because they are still a human. They still have to go to their wife and say, honey, what do you want for dinner today? Not just me, because I'm an evolutionary agent, but also working with your bosses and subordinates and your peers, recognizing that you have a destiny to be someone who's a leader, who expresses this supremeness is important. But it's also important to be subordinate when you have to be. So the foundation above is the all-conquering force of triumph. And what is built from that, the foundation below, is that which must be conquered. So when this native works best is when they know that they're superior at something, they have some divine mission, and they know that they're good at it, and they find an opportunity to express that superiority in the world. And the Shakti of Uttara Ashadha is the ability to remain unvanquished. That's apradrishya. When these three things come together, behold, there is victory. Now, all of that comes from the Taittiriya Brahmana with the commentary of Pattabhaskara Mishra, somebody who did a commentary on the Nakshatra Sutras. So, what we read from Radhe is that Uttara Ashadha arouses noble aspirations in its native. I got a half sneeze coming in, that sucks. Having ultimately the goal of spiritual liberation, Uttara Ashadha produces a divine warrior of sorts, an evolutionary agent, as I like to say. In fact, any righteous initiative that has the possibility of changing the world, defending justice, or protecting the underdog will do just fine for this person, so long as it represents the concepts big, victory, and teamwork. We've noted that Ernst Wilhelm puts a strong emphasis on the three kingdoms. There's the mineral kingdom, the plant kingdom. So the mineral kingdom is Dhatu, the plant kingdom is Mula, the animal kingdom is Jiva. This is a Jiva Nakshatra. which means it's not so much focused on the ground things. It's not even focused on its locale. It's focused on large global trend setting, trends, and fluctuations in the larger sphere of humanity. They tend to be well aware of what's happening online and on the internet and with larger movements. And so the Jiva Nakshatras tend to have this big energy, especially Uttara Ashadha. Now, the teamwork factor is very important for them because they need to be able to work on a team. Even though they have this intuition of this is where the world is going. Japan is doing this thing, and the Russians have got this brilliant thing. They need to bring it all together and ask, what can my company and my country do with the resources that we have, while integrating and innovating from all around to make ours the best. The symbol for Uttara Ashadha is the tusk of an elephant. The tusk of an elephant is actually the symbol for both Ashadhas, according to the Surya Siddhanta. So, no doubt, this is the dominant tusk, by which an elephant removes obstacles, marks and carves its signature into its territory, and victimizes intruding animals. When severed, the tusk regenerates. This symbolizes the invincible nature of the elephant and likewise the Uttara Ashadha native. Ventures that involve competition, a grand cause, and seemingly unbeatable odds are preferred by this native. Take, for example, George Patton, who had the moon in Uttara Ashadha. A general who possessed a tough and invincible attitude. George Patton is acclaimed as the most successful United States field commander of any war. His troops were trained to the highest standard of excellence. Among many things, Patton is remembered for his fierce determination and his stellar ability to lead soldiers. Now, Uttara Ashadha's 2 stars. Oh yeah, so right. So this is a sidereal statement, which says Uttara Ashadha's 2 stars are at the tip of the archer's bow, which means nothing is too small, no victory, no odds against victory are too minuscule to incite this person into action. It's just basically going to say that this person handles lofty goals. And what is relevant here is that indeed the native is likely to confront many opposing forces in life, just as the Vishvadevas are constantly confronted and pursued by asuras, which are the egoic things. Basically, Uttara Ashadha native is doing what's right because it's what's right. It's like you're hanging out with a bunch of guys and a bunch of girls, and somebody says, like you're out in the backyard, and the Uttara Ashadha guy's like, you know what, we should have a fire. I think that'd be great for everybody, right? Does everybody agree we should have a fire? And then someone, the Asura, comes out, is like, well, what makes you the big man who wants to have the fire, huh? I wanted to have a fire too. Like, what makes you the instigator of it? Let's do it together, for God's sakes. The Uttara Ashadha person's like, yeah, so we're going to have the fire then, yeah? Right? Good. Let's do the objective. Let's not worry about the I want to do it, you want to do it ego crap. Let's have the fire, shall we? And then Uttara Ashadha is just like, let's have a fire. All right, so we need some sticks. We need sticks here, like, how about you go get the sticks and then I'm going to go inside and get a lighter as well as some paper. And his buddy's like, well, what do you mean? Like, why don't I go get the lighter and the paper? And the Uttara Ashadha is like, sure. Right. Somebody's got to get the sticks, so I'll go get the sticks. Oh, wait, hold on. So you're the big man who gets the big logs? No. I'm going to get the big logs there, tough guy. Relax. And then the Asura goes and gets the logs. And then the Uttara Ashadha is like, okay, whatever. Right. And then he goes and gets what he, this egotism of the human personality, feeling like they're being delegated. Uttara Ashadha doesn't even give a darn about these things. But they have to deal with them, especially if there's karma, there's other planets, if there's a lot of if there's a stellium, if there's things going on with the Lord of Uttara Ashadha. If you've got the moon in Uttara Ashadha, and you've got like Mars in Cancer, or if you've got Mars conjunct Saturn, while Mars is in the same sign as Saturn, while the moon is in Uttara Ashadha, or some other malefic. Something is going on with the moon, or the rising sign point, or whatever is in Uttara Ashadha. There's some difficulty going on. You're going to naturally do the narrative of being the leader, but the asuras are going to constantly confront you. That's kind of what is conveyed here. Now, political and social activist Jane Fonda.
Justin?
Yeah,
Where are you at?
I'm in the basement.
Oh, I have lunch here for you.
Oh, awesome. Thanks, Dad. That's fucking sick. I'll be up in a sec. My dad brought me some lunch. Yes. Thanks, Pops. Okay. Political and social activist Jane Fonda has her rising sign and her Jupiter in Uttara Ashadha, and she displays several prototypical attributes of Uttara Ashadha. In her public opposition to U.S. involvement in Vietnam, Fonda joined forces with thousands of like-minded individuals. This is again the Jiva energy, is sensitive to global movements and to be the face of them and to use them to their advantage for their personal goals and objectives. Fonda also became involved in several radical movements in the United States, including the American Indian movement and Black Power. She's a strong supporter of Huey Newton and the Black Panthers. Commenting on her radical bent, Fonda is quoted, "Revolution is an act of love. We are the children of revolution, born to be rebels. It runs in our blood." Now, outside of Indra-ruled Jyesta and Indra-Agni-ruled Vishaka nakshatras, Uttara Ashadha is the most ambitious of the 27 nakshatras. Everything about Uttara Ashadha is larger than life. So it's only second to Vishaka and Jyesta in this grandioseness. The Vishvadevas fight only the big battles of the universe on behalf of really big causes. And the biggest, most grandiose of all yajnas, the Soma Yajna sacrifice, is performed exclusively on behalf of the Vishvadevas, which is a huge statement. If you've been listening to my Nakshatra Sutra series, you'll learn that the Soma Yajna is the brick and stone mortar that is, in the days before there were sutras that you could write down, they wanted to have ceremonies and rituals that contained the essence of the wisdom of the Vedas. And the Soma Yajna is a ceremony where there's 27 stones and there's oblations to all the Vedic deities. It's like the foundation. It's the bedrock that Vedic literature stands on. And so to say that the Soma Yajna is performed on the behalf of the Vishvadevas really says a lot about the Vishvadevas and this lunar asterism. And the agenda, the evolutionary agency that this native is an agent for when they are in a state of true cosmic fusion with the greater will of divine intelligence. So, unlike Jyesta and Vishaka, Uttara Ashadha has the power of numbers behind it. Jyesta and Vishaka tend to be lone soul agents, but Uttara Ashadha is more like Jane Fonda, who is the face, the centrifugal figure of a larger movement with numbers behind them. And that signifies also the Vishvadevas, the 33 gods of the divine forces. So what Uttara Ashadha provides this native is the ability to excel in a team environment. Now, with teamwork, the Vishvadevas successfully conquer the Asuras. Now, if it's not afflicted, Uttara Ashadha promotes the subordination of personal prominence to the overall larger eminence of the group. Again, it's like, I don't care who gets the wood, who gets the kindling, as long as the group gets to have this fire and the group is continued and furthered. This is Uttara Ashadha's ultimate goal. And this native is advantaged in professions that require a collaborative effort and a common goal. Of course, they have to be aware of being too headstrong, and they have to be aware of the delicate operations that teamwork requires. Now, one of the keys to success for this native is their ability to strategically align with higher echelons of society. The Uttara Ashadha native establishes important connections by moving within privileged circles. Such connections are pivotal for realizing this native's personal and professional goals. And anyone with any significant indications in the chart related to Uttara Ashadha is going to want to do this, to move through these circles and to have these connections. This is in strong contrast to Jesta, the assertive nakshatra ruled by headstrong and fiercely independent Indra, rarely found to be sharing glory. Indra, the Jesta native, keeps victory credits to themselves. Now, this shows that if a part of the narrative of Uttara Ashadha is learning not to be like Indra, to share the spoils and to enjoy the teamwork. In the end, this teamwork will be a positive part of this person. Now, if duly afflicted, or if in a chart with multiple factors of a competitive nature, the Uttara Ashadha native is capable of a similar mentality, of being too competitive, of being a bad sport. The native may even believe that everyone in the world is against him. Seeing that every demon in the universe went up against the Vishvadevas, such belief may not be entirely delusional, because every demon in the universe did go up against the Vishvadevas in Vedic lore, which is the deity. The Vishvadevas together is the deity signified by this asterism. But ultimately, that is just in keeping with the narrative of the individual soul battling the Asuras within itself. Just like in the Bhagavad Gita, there's this big war, but that's a spiritual metaphor for defeating the Suras inside oneself, finding harmony with the egotism of the individuated human material ego, and being a channel for the higher light of the Devanam. It happens inside ourselves and multiplies itself into manifestation through physical reality. This is true for all of us, but we might find it's especially true for Uttara Ashadha. There's a lot there, and I hope that this has given you all something to digest, something to consider with regard to the nature of this native. You know, this person might do well, again, as someone who is a team-working person, and they're advantaged in professions that require a collaborative effort and common goal. Something to keep in mind for the careers of those who are natives of this nakshatra. So I'm going to put out a video that is going to talk a little bit about the Vedic lore surrounding the Vishvadevas, so keep an eye out for that. Ultimately, I feel pretty good. This is a long video today, but I was happy to do it. I was really tuned in today. So I hope you guys thought so. I'm Dustin Cormier, and this is How to Rock Astrology. If you've enjoyed my work here today, be sure to check out dustincormier.com/subscribe, where you can subscribe to my email list, and you can check out anything that I've got going on related to Tropical Vedic Astrology, as well as I'm going to be writing a book about Tropical Vedic Astrology. I've got novels coming out, and eventually I'm going to do courses as well. So if you're somebody who wants to be involved with everything I've got going on, feel free to check me out there and to subscribe to my email list. As well, just watch my channels because I always got more stuff coming through. I'm Dustin Cormier. This has been How to Rock Astrology. Thanks so much for watching, folks. See you guys on the other side.